Okay, so I just recently bought myself a Roland SP-404 Mark II. Now, I've had it a while, an SP-404A. Let's just call it the Mark I for argument's sake, because it keeps things simple, because there's also a couple of other very, very similar models like it, like the SX and the OG. And I haven't touched... I pretty much have barely touched the Mark II because I've got quite an affection for the SP-404 Mark I, and I just wanted to kind of revisit it and just look at how I can really up my game and up the workflow on it, basically to kind of just massively improve it. So I've completely reevaluated how I work with it, and the change has been, to be honest, really, really phenomenal. Here's my 5 tips, 5 things that I've done, and I really advise you, if you're still using one of these things, have a look at it and just reevaluate what you're doing. So, tip number 1, basically make your Mark I part of a hybrid system. And what do I mean by that? So keep it permanently connected to your PC via the MIDI port in the back. Also utilize all the cables in the back, so your input and your output cables, keep it permanently connected to some kind of mixer. Doing this allows you to still use the SP as a standalone device, but gives you the immediacy and flexibility to use it alongside other equipment at a moment's notice without having to rewire cables or move it around. So that just makes it so much more readily available rather than kind of have it as a standalone device. Obviously, you can still use it as a standalone device, but it just gives you that total flexibility and makes it so much more useful. So that's tip number 1. So tip number 2, create your pad samples on a computer. Now, I know a lot of purists might think, that's not good, it's a standalone machine. Yes, it is a standalone machine, but to be honest, the reality of what I do is I also use a PC and other bits of equipment. So yeah, create your pad samples on a computer and import them to your SP using the SD card. The SP-404 Mark I does let you kind of edit samples in the unit itself, but you have to gauge the start and end points of the samples by ear. Now, this can be a good thing, as a slight timing discrepancies can make your beats feel a bit more organic, but it can be a slow process. Much better to edit samples using software. I use MPC Beats as it's free and makes importing samples and edit chops really, really easy. So that's tip number 2, create your pad samples on a computer. Tip number 3, use an external MIDI keyboard to trigger pads. Okay, regardless of whether you want to integrate your SP Mark I with a PC or not, okay, using an external controller to manually play the SP means that you instantly generally gain access to velocity sensitivity. Okay, the Mark I doesn't have velocity sensitive pads, but if you're going to kind of you can use a pad controller like an Akai MPD 218 like I do, or an M-Wave SMC. I've also got one of those. But what I can do is really recommend using a traditional MIDI keyboard. The more keys, the better. I use an Axiom 25, which is years old. There are 2 great reasons why I can recommend using a keyboard to control the SP Mark I over using a drum pad controller. Reason number 1 is the SP has 12 pads. 12 pads is the exact same number of keys as an octave on a keyboard. So what this means is that each octave on your keyboard directly relates to each pad bank in your SP-404. Reason number 2, even on a small keyboard with just 2 octaves of notes, you get instant access to play double the amount of samples. A 6-octave keyboard will give you access to 5 banks of samples without kind of flipping about with menus and whatnot. Okay, tip number 4. Use a DAW to create sequences and full songs. The Mark I does let you create patterns within the device itself, but hitting the pads at the right time to create your desired patterns can involve a bit of toing and froing and restarting, etc. Much better to create your patterns on a DAW and feed that note information out to your SP via MIDI. Perfect timing every time, and changes to patterns are done with a simple drag of the mouse. Okay, tip number 5, slightly similar to tip number 1, but by fully integrating your SP Mark 1 into your computer, outboard gear with its mixer, you can make use of its audio effects with other equipment straight away. Okay, that's many people think of the Mark 1 as having some really good effects, as does the Mark 2. So even if you're making a track that doesn't require samples, you still have the option of using its effects, such as the isolator, filter, or vinyl sim, etc. And to be honest, it's great just to be able to put a drum machine through it, or perhaps a Volca bass through it, or any other kind of outboard gear really quickly, especially if you've got a mixer with auxiliary sends, makes it really quick. So there you go, there's my 5 tips. Hope you like them, and I really do think that if you use those tips, you've pretty much brought it up to and surpassed what a Mark II can do in the box, if you know what I mean. Obviously a Mark II can do more in the box, and you can still do all of these things I mentioned with a Mark II, but this has really changed my view and working relationship with the SP-404 Mark I. Thank you very much.